All right. Good evening. Good evening. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy birthday, Arizona. Uh, Happy Black History Month. If you're wondering what meeting you're in, because sometimes we're in those type of lives where we go from meeting to meeting, and sometimes we forget where we are and why we're there. You're in the LD11 monthly meeting for February. I'm your chair, Patrick Brown, and I want to welcome you to the meeting. And so, if this is your first meeting, we hope that you learn a lot and you come back for future meetings. If this is your the meeting you come to once a month and you're a veteran at this, then welcome back. And like, as always, we got some good information for everybody and some good updates from everything going on, in LD11 and beyond. So before we get started, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping rules, our norms. The first one is, with when it comes to cameras, like I said, if you're recognized to speak, if you're a speaker, please turn on your camera. We like to see who's talking. Like I said, if you're able to, I know some people have bandwidth things and whatnot, but if you're able to, please turn your camera on. If you're not talking, if you're just watching the meeting, it's up to you. Please make sure that you have that mute button activated. We want to make sure, there are no distractions to our speakers, things of that nature. So just like I said, make sure you have that mute button uh, engaged. Like I said, if you are recognized to speak, then of course you can unmute and chime in. If you have questions or comments, please drop those in the chat. Like I said, the board will be monitoring the chat. And so like either, one of our board members will just answer the question, or maybe one of our members will answer the question type of thing. As always, again, like I said, we like to keep things orderly and so that everybody can get the best out of these meetings. If you are the type of person who likes to follow along at home, you can follow along with the agenda. We'll drop the link in the chat, or if you're kind of using dual devices, you got your phone handy if you're on your computer or whatnot, you can scan that QR code and you can see tonight's agenda. That way you can follow along and see who's going to be speaking and kind of the order of things. I'll leave that up just for a moment for those of you guys trying to snap away. And then for those of you, just like I said, just want to click on a link, so that'll be in the chat here. All right, let's get into our office reports. So, like I said, I think at this point, everybody knows my mantra on this is that, democracy is not a spectator sport. With that being said, it's a couple of things that have been going on. It's been a lot of like activity, especially at the state level. I'll leave it to our legislators who are in attendance tonight to kind of get into the nitty gritty on that. But I want to point out a couple of like major changes that have taken place. As you guys know, we were kind of in a pretty precarious situation when it comes to our upcoming elections based on some legal things that had changed from the last election. Now, when it comes to the counting of votes and the recount period and all this type of stuff, pretty much what it all shakes down to is that. And again, like I said, I'll let legislators get into like the nitty gritty, but we've got some dates that we need to be aware of. So obviously, for anybody on this call who is running for an elective office, you probably have this stuff memorized. But for those of you who are elected PCs and are, of course, doing the paperwork to become, to get reelected as a PC, these dates are important to you as well. So the first thing is the primary election has been moved up. The primary election for this year is going to be June 30th. Um, Along those lines is that it comes down to candidate petition. So I'm going to speak from the perspective of PCs. So those of you who are working to get your PC signatures, the drop dead deadline to get that done is going to be April 1st. And so that's when that's going to take place. Is that you have to have your petitions filed by 5 p.m. on April 1st. Not 5:01, not 5:30, not 6 o'clock, 5 p.m. Obviously, you want to do it earlier than that because doing stuff at the last minute is never fun. Now, if you're an individual who is, deciding I'm going to go the write-in route for becoming an elected PC, the write-in period starts after the petition deadline. So think, you have April 1st, that's the cutoff for petitions. So from pretty much the 1st to April 15th, that's going to be the time period where you can submit a write-in to become an elected PC. Now with this one, you can either, like I said, mail it, or you can drop it off in person at the county elections office. If you are going to drop it off in person, That deadline is April 15th by 5 p.m. Now, here's the thing with mail. Now, some people do choose to mail them in. Here's the thing. They do not go by when it's postmarked. So if you mail it on April 14th and it gets there on the 16th, unfortunately, it will not be accepted. So it has to be received by the county elections by 5 p.m. on the 15th. So if you're going to mail it, you want to mail it in as early as possible. If you don't want to take the chance with a mail or something, you need to drop it off. However you want to you want to do this, we are here to help you. If you're someone who, knows how to do this, you're good to go, then we got you covered. We'll get you your paperwork. You're good to go. If you have questions, ask. We'll be happy to do that. If you need somebody to drop it off for you because you got a wacky work schedule or something, we're here to support you. So again, we want as many people, especially those of you guys who are current PCs, to continue being PCs. Those of you who have, were appointed PCs or, are kind of new to getting involved, we want you to have a chair at the table by becoming a PC. And that brings me to something you probably heard us kind of, bounce around. We call it the 60 Strong campaign. What is 60 Strong? Well, we set a goal earlier, I think it was like kind of middle of last year, early this year, was to have a minimum, this is a minimum of 60 elected PCs. And we can do that. And we want more, but we figure, you got to have that goal. Why this is important, why it's important that we have 60 strong elected PCs is that, one, that gives us more state committee seats. As many of you guys who've been in this game for a little bit understand, the state committee membership, that's where a lot of our, overarching policies, standpoints, directions of the Democratic Party, that's where a lot of decisions are made. And state committee members are the ones who cast that vote. State committee members are the ones who can, hold elected office at the state party level. The more state committee members we have, the greater voice we have, in that setting. The other part is that if ever there comes a time that, one of our legislators, steps down, either they're running for, office, a different office or something like that, then we have to have a minimum of 30 elected PCs in order to select the 3 individuals that will then go to the Board of Supervisors. For many of you guys who've been around for a while, you guys know we've gone through that process in the past. If you've been following along, there have been several LDs who have had to go through this process to appoint individuals to, ensure they have representation. If you don't have that minimum of 30, guess what? We as PCs don't get any kind of say with that. The Board of Supervisors sets up the process. We've been very fortunate that when we've had to do appointments, we've always, had the required amount of elected PCs to make sure that happens. And we want to make sure that we have that and then some. I'm all about running up the score. So that's all I'm going to talk about tonight. Like I said, we got a pretty packed agenda. So just kind of, with my report, I want you guys to become PCs. I want you guys, get your paperwork done. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. We'll answer them tonight or definitely reach out. With that being said, I'm going to hand things over to our first Vice Chair, Dave Braun. Hey, Dave, you're currently muted.
You're right. I really don't have anything, and if we have as many folk addressing us tonight, I'll pass.
All right. So that brings up to our second Vice Chair, Michael Butts.
One second. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
Good. All right. First of all, thank you everyone for coming to our meeting on Valentine's Day. We appreciate your attendance today. So I'm going to be really brief. I want to kind of talk about 3 quick things. The first is I want to talk about our next social. Second, I want to talk about our PC kind of conversation. And then third, I want to talk about our kind of strategy going into the 2024 race. So with that, I'll talk about our social first. We are going to be setting a date here pretty soon for our next social. And in the past, we've probably been about more 75% recreation, 25% business. These next socials this year is going to be more or less 75% business, 25% recreation, because obviously that we're going into a very important critical race, election time, and we really want to get together, have fun, but really take care of a lot of business. So be on the lookout for the next social date when we set that, and please free up your schedule so that we can come out together and work our district together. Second, I want to talk about kind of what our president has already said about PCs, our goal of 60. It is a very reachable goal, and we need all of everyone's help and focus. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about when we schedule our next social, is focusing on that PC base, right? Building up our PCs and making sure we're reaching that goal of 60. That is crucial. That's the backbone of our district. We have a lot of work to do throughout this year, and that really takes me to my third point. My third point is really more or less strategy. We have I want to talk about our 2022 race for a quick second. In our 2022 race, as you know, I was a former candidate for a House seat, and so what we saw in that race, we saw one Republican House candidate run for House, rather. And in this particular 2024 race, I don't know if you've been kind of keeping up with the candidate filings, but there are two Republicans running for our House seats. I know that we are a Democratic leaning district. However, there are two now, as opposed to one before. There are two House candidates, running for House in the Republican Party, and for the Senate seat there is one Republican. So that tells us two things: either one, they're becoming increasingly confident, or they are becoming increasingly strategic. Maybe both. However, I just want to point that fact out, because we do have, and we've seen on the national numbers as well, the independent voter base is growing, right? And so we want to make sure that we are not only maintaining our base here in our District 11, but also gaining our voter base, and then also reaching and connecting with our independent voter base. So we are interested in a training and a conversation with getting more information on how to effectively connect with independent voters. We believe that is going to be a very strategic step to ensuring our base here in District 11, and making sure that we don't lose any numbers and lose any effectiveness in the legislature. So we are wanting to make sure that you are equipped enough to have those comfortable conversations with independent voters in our district, to make sure that we're not pushing them further on the other side. And so stay tuned for that information, stay tuned for that particular conversation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brother President.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Great information. And again, like I said, these are how elections are won, is through the work of people like everybody on this call. It's not, the candidates have to do a lot of work. They have to run their campaigns, but, the candidates, of course, need, the support, not only just from just us, but from our communities. And keep in mind the work that happens even after the campaign about keeping people engaged and, understanding the legislation and how to advocate and things like that. That's the work that we do. And of course, it all starts with being actively engaged in a party. Okay. Go with our secretary. Tanisha, do you have anything to report?
Chair, at this time, I do not have anything to report. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Sadia, our treasurer, you are up.
Okay. So, okay. Or it's just on December 31st. So let me give you a minute. Let me open up my report.
Sorry, that was probably me multitasking during the day. So
okay.
My bad on the, yeah, I probably typed in the wrong date. So sorry.
Okay. All right. So as of January 31st, we have $3,455.43 in our bank account, and we raised $185. This comes from our Act Blue online donation from our recurring donors. So we encourage anybody to become a recurring donor. We'll provide a link. We rely on small donations to be successful this year, and we spent $354.81 this month, and we'll soon show you the details. Okay. Could you give me a second? So let me. Sorry about this. I just had my food delivered. Okay, so based on our expenditure breakdown, it's mostly our monthly expenditure, but the only thing unique is our annual expenditure of $232 for our PO box. And this is for anybody who wants to send a check for donations. And here's a link if you guys want to donate online. We rely on every little donations to be successful.
All right. Thank you, Sadia. And like I said, I always like to reiterate that, the generosity of our membership helps us do the work that we do. With us going into a major campaign season, one of our major projects will be doing our direct mail campaign that was really successful in 2020 and in 2022 of making sure people, had, guidance and, they knew, kind of, how to kind of navigate a lot of the stuff on the ballot. We anticipate that this 2024 ballot will have a lot of stuff on it. On top of just all the offices from the top of the ballot to the bottom, we're anticipating that there are going to be a lot of ballot initiatives on this ballot. So we, things like a direct mail voter guide coming from the LD will, be really helpful to a lot of our voters. Because again, some people, they know certain aspects of what's going on, but not others. And as we've learned, from previous elections, if folks, especially in our district, don't really know what something is or who someone is, they tend to just skip that vote. They just don't go. So come out, they don't flip a coin. So what we want to do is want to limit voter drop off, and things like, like a voter guide helps do that. So if you can definitely, find it in your heart and your wallet to donate to the LD, we'd much appreciate it. Tanisha.
Hi, just a quick question. Sadia, can you please clarify the amount in the checking account as of January 31st, 2024?
So, yeah. As of January 31st, we do have $3,455.43.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, her report's correct. It's just I wasn't reading closely and proofreading the PowerPoint.
I didn't realize to put the wrong date in my report, so I'll fix that on my end too.
All right, and Sergeant at Arms, Robert Branscombe, you have the floor.
All right, can everyone hear me this evening? I'm sorry that my camera is acting up, so I can't activate it. But welcome and thank you for being here this evening. Today, we celebrate 112 years of Arizona statehood. Arizona's Constitution was on display today at the state capitol in a celebration of Arizona's birthday. But this document is actually the third one territorial era Arizonans came up with before becoming the 48th state. You probably heard the story about how Congress turned down a version of the current Constitution in 1910 that would codify women's suffrage, citizens' ability to recall judges, and the direct election of senators in the state's Constitution. President William Howard Taft, a judge, did not like the judge provision. A new version of the Constitution was removed those points, and Taft signed Arizona into statehood 112 years ago today. But Arizona's just added those provisions back shortly after becoming a state. And the second thing I have to report on tonight is Trump's ally bill aims to keep him on Arizona ballot as Colorado attempts to bar him. The 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says that a candidate who has previously taken an oath of office can be disqualified from the ballot if they participated in an insurrection or rebellion against the United States. In Arizona, it will be illegal to take such action based on claims against the presidential candidate if a bill that got its first debate Monday becomes law. The legislation from Senator Janae Shamp, Republican Peoria, is a response to the ballot access case currently being weighed in by the U.S. Supreme Court. The High Court is debating whether Colorado is within its right when it ruled last December that former President Donald Trump was disqualified for the state's 2024 presidential ballot under the insurrection clause of the Constitution. Shamp said the Colorado decision left her incredulous, inspiring Senate Bill 1158. To think we're going to keep someone off the ballot because of perceived and not convicted crimes is unheard of, Shamp said. It is amazing, she added, that Arizona even needs to run legislation to prevent such a move. The bill explicitly seeks to bar disqualifying presidential candidates based on a claimed violation of the 14th Amendment. Shamp was not immediately available to say how her bill would affect the presidential candidate convicted of insurrection. Senator Pyra Sundarshan, and forgive me if she's on if I said her name wrong, Democratic Tucson, argued that there is no requirement that the candidate be convicted of insurrection. The legislation, she said, appears to rebuff the constitutional guidance. Seeing an attempt to go around the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, Sundarshan said. But the Senate Election Committee saw it differently and voted 5-2 along party lines to pass the bill. Republicans favor the bill, which now moves to a full vote for the Senate. The bill might not be necessary. Secretary of State Adrian Fontes last fall pointed to a state law that required his office to qualify any presidential candidate if he or she has been already certified by at least 2 other states. Arizona has its own short-lived episode with the disqualification clause of the 14th Amendment this election cycle. Presidential candidate John Anthony Castro sued the U.S. District Court, arguing Trump should be barred from the 2024 ballot in Arizona due to the insurrection provision in his insurrection provision. His case was dismissed. At the same time, Castro had similarly complained in the federal courts in Florida. He lost and was unsuccessful in his attempt to get the U.S. Supreme Court to take it up. And with one other note, I just want to emphasize what the second vice chair said, Michael Butts, that we need to continue to engage with those independent voters. Even though they don't have a voice during the primary, we cannot let their voice go unheard and make sure that they know where Democrats are standing with them and how their views are. And with that, Mr. Chair, that will be the end of my report.
All right. Thank you for that report. So that's going to conclude our officer reports for this evening. So we're going to move into the next part of our meeting, which let me switch screens here. I had the agenda here a minute ago. There we go. Had a little technical difficulties. So now we're going to be moving into our guest speakers of this evening. So our first guest speaker, her name is Selena Washburn. To give you a little bit about Selena, she is a proud first-generation Mexican-American who has spent the last 15 years organizing for worker rights, immigrant rights, and reproductive rights. She's a community organizer for Healthcare Rising Arizona, working to fix healthcare in Arizona through ballot initiatives. And currently, she is the lead community organizer for the Arizona for Abortion Access ballot initiative. So she's going to share some information about that with us tonight. So Selena, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick, for that introduction. I hope everybody's doing well on Valentine's Day. So Patrick let me know that pretty much you all are up to date with our ballot initiative for abortion access. Our main goal is to make abortions accessible for folks here in Arizona. As of right now, there is a 15-week ban with no exceptions. So it's something that we want to be able to change. The other thing that we have is also that old territorial law that would make it, if that's currently being heard in the Arizona Supreme Court, that would ban all abortions except in the case where the person is almost dying, which now we've seen in other states, it complicates things. But I did see that Shelby was on the call. She's been helping out with this initiative. We are looking for volunteers that can help gather signatures and help us reach our goal. I did see a message come through. Yeah, Shelby is a rock star indeed. So one of the ways you could support is we're starting hubs. And a hub is either a small business or a home where people can go pick up petitions or sign the petition or pick up any other materials. So I'm looking for volunteers that can help out with that. I'm also looking for volunteers that can help out at our office with like data or helping out distribute petitions because people are always coming in and out. And we're also looking for folks that can volunteer at an event. This weekend, we have 3 main events that are happening. We have the Willow Home Tour, which is based in Midtown Phoenix. We also have the Roller Skaters Market that is happening. And last but not least, we have the Gay Rodeo that it's starting up on Friday. So we have amazing opportunities. I will share that in the chat in case any of you want to sign up and participate with that. If you are interested in getting petitions to help gather signatures from your neighbors, let me know as well. Or if you're interested in hosting a petition party, the opportunities are endless. So just put down in the chat what you're interested in and if you want to get involved. Does anybody have any questions? Carmen, well, go ahead.
Yes, hi. So my question is there still this training thing on this petitions thing? Because I was reaching out to some people and they were telling me that there's some kind of training thing for this. And I'm like, a training thing for this? We need people to sign and get this thing going instead of a training thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, so there is a training that happens on a weekly basis on Mondays. The training is for people who are gathering signatures. We want to make sure that we dot all our I's and cross all our T's and make sure that no mistakes are made. This is, as you are all aware of, a very sensitive topic. So we know we're going to have strong opposition. And in the court, when we're taken to court, we want to make sure we did everything according to the book. So the training helps with how to make sure we gather signatures the right way, so that all signatures are valid. And then also it goes around messaging, like what has been working, and what we shouldn't be using as far as like when we're talking to the community members. And then it goes over volunteer opportunities. So that's the whole purpose of the training. You do not need a training to sign though. Did that answer your question?
Well, yeah, but I've done petitions for a minute, and I just think that for those that are experienced with it, I don't think they should have to do that. But like I said, that's what I saw. So I'm just not.
Yeah, it goes.
Anyway.
No, yeah, it goes more in depth with the messaging. We also have an opposition group who has been trying to record us and try to, catch us making mistakes. So that has happened to me personally, where the person was wearing a body cam So we want to make sure that everything from the petition, all the counties are filled up, that the volunteer box is checked up. That's the most important thing that I know us as experts who have been doing this for a minute, you know, that to us, that's secondhand nature. But then the other thing it will go over are difficult questions you will encounter on there. So it helps with the messaging. These people who are opponents, like I said, they're wearing body cam cameras and they're trying to ask sneaky questions to see if they catch you giving misinformation or something that's not around the messaging for our petition. So that's the reason why we're asking folks to complete that training. But I totally hear you. But it's something that we're doing just to take precautions. Joshua, I see your hand up.
It's great the work that y'all are doing. Before I ran for office, I was the hub for Southern Arizona with the League of Women Voters. And so just so people know, it's not purely a Democratic effort, that we have people from across our community, partisan and nonpartisan, working on this. I'm just wondering, what's our goal and how close are we to that goal?
Oh, yes, that's a really big thing. So a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, we announced that we had reached over 250,000 signatures. So obviously that has grown. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to talk about our numbers because of our opposition. We don't want to give them any disclosure of how far we are from our goals. Because this only fuels them and them ramping up with our campaign. So great question. I wish I could share, but unfortunately, I'm not allowed to. Just know that we're working really hard to get as close to our goal as possible.
Hey, Selena, I know this is a question often comes up. What is the filing deadline for you guys?
Yes, so the filing deadline will be the second week of July. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it's July 7th, but I have to double check on that. For us, it has to be at the last week of June. That's when we have to pack up everything into boxes to get them ready to be dropped off at the Secretary of State. So that's what I'm telling everybody, is make sure we have everything in by July, the last week of July. Or June, sorry. I was looking at Joshua's comment on the primaries, now July 30th. No, June 30th. So great question. Anybody else?
Okay, well, Selena, thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing that information with us. If you could, definitely, if you drop any information, that you think folks need to have in the chat, if they, want to reach out, if they have questions, or if they, like I said, they want to sign up for a training to, to handle petitions, just drop all that stuff in the chat. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, everybody. Happy Valentine's.
All right, so our next guest tonight is Melissa Armas. So we go as always. I'm gonna go through the bio. So if you don't know Melissa, you should, and if you do know Melissa, then I think you'll know some of the stuff on here. So all right, so Melissa has been a proud Arizonan since 2012, and American citizen since 2015. Raised in Venezuela, she brings a deep passion for democracy, enriched by her experiences as a serial expat across 6 countries. This diverse international background has given her a global perspective on democracy and civic engagement, shaping her approach to community involvement and political activism. In 2020, Melissa served as the State Deputy Director of Operations for Organizing Together, and also led Arizona's first 100% Spanish campaign, Aquí se vota, which was a significant milestone in the state's political engagement efforts. Her leadership continued in 2022 when she led an operations coaching and support program, aiding over 60 civic engagement organizations to enhance their impact. Melissa's role extends beyond political campaigns. She's a board member, advisor, founder, and citizen diplomat, actively involved in tech, startup, civic engagement, business, and nonprofit sectors. Additionally, Melissa is a member of the Copper State Leadership Council, where she continues to contribute her expertise and passion for democratic values and community empowerment, and her advocacy for diversity and particularly notable as she works tirelessly to elevate voter engagement and safeguard democracy. And I'm just going to add this part to it, is that she's a fantastic human being, and I've had the privilege of working her not outside of political realm and inside the political realm, and she's one of the coolest people you can get to know. She's got a lot of great information for us tonight, so I'm going to turn things over to Melissa.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And may I share my screen, please? Would you let me? It'd be
Yep,
faster.
you have access.
You're the best. Thank you. And thank you so much for all the flowers. I appreciate you. And yeah, this is not my first presentation at ALD 11. It's been a long time since we've been talking about things. So yeah, thank you for the introduction. As Patrick said, I've been in a few places. I've been lucky enough to experience systems from South America to France, the Netherlands, Sweden. I moved to Dallas, Texas in 2007, moved here in 2012, and became a citizen in 2015. And it's been a wild ride. A little more so you understand where I come from. I don't cry at weddings. I cry at naturalization ceremonies. So that's pretty much what's that. Now, when people ask where I'm from, and I say I'm from Venezuela, the first thing that I hear is, how long have you been here? And I know deep inside that they really want to know if I left before Chavez or after Chavez. And the answer to that is yes. I left twice. So I left before and after Chavez. Many times when we think about what's happening in our election year right now, we think that this is the first time that this country has been through this. This is the first time that this is a situation that has been experienced throughout history. And I'm here just to remind you that that's not the case. When you look at history, you can actually see parallels with Venezuela in 1998. We had an election season. We had a very strong man running for office. We had a lot of divisiveness in the country. A lot of people didn't care about voting. There was a lot of apathy, and there was a lot of resentment that was instilled through the political arena. So in 1998, we were hearing warning signs from Cuban Venezuelans in the country, and we didn't listen. They would tell us that they had seen these things before, and would always say, you know, we're not an island. This is a country. We have oil. That's never going to happen here. And 25 years later, well, here we are. Now, between 99, when the election was won with very little participation, and 2002, many things happened in the country. One of the things was that the constitution was changed. The terms were expanded. All the institutions started to erode. In 2002, there was an oil workers strike that led to massive protests. Now, this protest here is the same one, and I was there. I was engaged as much as I could. So this day we got to the main stage, to the gathering point, and we realized that it was so many of us that we just decided to go to the presidential palace and ask Chavez to resign. So we took over the highways, and we walked and walked and walked. And by the time we got to downtown, we realized that we were going to get tear gassed, and we did. But we kept going and we kept going. And at the moment, when I was about 1 block from the turning corner to get to the avenue that leads to the government buildings, we started hearing shots. At that point, I turned around and started actually running. My first thought was, you know, I'm an only child. Our phones are not working. The phones were down. I could not call my mom to tell her that I was okay and I was going back home. So I just started running and running, and I got home within an hour or so. And by the time I got there, I realized that something was happening. My parents were freaking out, and then I was able to see why they were so worried. You see, when the phone lines were blocked by the government, Chavez went on a national TV and radio broadcast. And it is this thing that autocrats do. What they did is pretty much they just, all you can see and hear is them. So they turn off the phones, they block all the communications, and then the broadcast was on. But he wasn't counting that we had a Cuban Venezuelan businessman who owned DirecTV in Miami. And at that point, what they did is they used a satellite to split that screen in two. On one half, we would see Chavez saying that everything was awesome. And on the other half of the screen, we could see protesters being killed live on TV. Now, that day, a few things stuck with me. One of them, well, the first one was, we're screwed. They're shooting at us, people are dying. The second thing that stuck with me is, and if you've known me for a while, you know that I've always advocated to get elected officials and technologists in the same rooms. And the reason is because we need to be part of the policy conversation and make sure that tech is a way to protect our communities and to safeguard democracy. So that's my deepest why. That's why I want technology and democracy to be in the same room. And the third thing that we realized is that inclusion is the way. We must listen to each other, because most times we have 75 to 90% of things in common, and we're letting those 10 or 25% things that we don't agree on divide us. And we need to stop and listen and stop that. And we just need to make sure that we remember that immigrants who come to this country also bring political trauma and survivor's guilt, because they've been in situations like the one I just told you right now. Now, the answer is empathy. We need to remember that people live circumstances, not just countries. And most importantly, that empathy and listening will help us uncover motivations and empower voters to engage. Now, the approach is simple. In case you didn't know, we have about 300,000 Hispanics in Arizona who are of non-Mexican origin. And yes, you're right, not all of them can vote. But if you remember too that most immigrant households have mixed status, many times the backgrounds inform the way the families vote. Understanding when and why individuals have left their countries of origin is very important for us to have a conversation. Now let's talk about that mysterious Latino voter and how to engage the most of them for us. The Hispanic landscape in Arizona is like this, right? We're having this conversation today because Hispanics are over 32% of the population, and we need to see how we're trying to engage them better. And the reason for that is that in the past elections, the turnout for Hispanics hasn't been high at all. Actually, it's gone down between 2018 and 2022. Now, when we think about Hispanics, we need to understand that they come in all shapes, forms, colors, religions, education levels, races, and socioeconomic backgrounds. These differences will inform how they engage. By assuming it's a block, we are alienating thousands of voters, and that should not be the directive this year. Also, by the way, Mexicans are not a monolith either, but that's a whole different TED talk. That's not on my plate, but I think we should talk about that as well. Now, belonging and civic engagement, let's talk about the politically unassimilated. A lot of immigrants live in this country and they love this country and they feel like they belong, but they're not part of the democratic process. 3 in 4 don't follow politics, and they can't tell you that they know enough to pick a party. The next thing that I want to bring up is the story of self. The story of self works great in most suburbs and in many circumstances, but when you're talking to families who are fighting to survive, Maslow is a thing that we need to remember. We need to approach these families and ask what they need, discover how can we make their lives better so we can relay them to the policies and the candidates that are going to improve those issues for them. And one more thing that's very important, politics with the Hispanic population is not about ideologies. It's not left right? Because left and right are very, very different things in the US and the rest of the Americas. The concepts that even vary historically. So if you go from one decade to another decade, it's going to be different as well. At this point, we should be aware that messaging based on country of origin and knowing background from people is very important. And it works. Just ask Florida. And one more thing I want to say about Hispanics and in how to approach as them is cultural connection over translation. So please stop just using Google Translate or now ChatGPT. It's not enough. You need to understand where your audience is at, how to explain things in a way that is not condescending, but it is knowledgeable of the level of engagement that you already have. So if you're just going to translate a page for an LD, you need to also tell them, hey, yes, these are the primary candidates, but this is what a primary is, and this is why we have primaries. Another thing that's important too is understanding culture and context. So certain nuances for different origins are important to follow. And why now? Very important. We're having migration models shifting. Right now, we're getting less people from Mexico through our borders and more people from other places in Latin America, including Cuba. And these people are entering as refugees and asylum seekers. And what happens is that refugees and asylum seekers have a shorter path to citizenship. It's about 6 years versus another migrant who might have to wait 10 years or might never get a status. So we need to remember that we need to expand that message to talk to those people who are coming through the border now. And we'll be voting in about 6 to 8 years. And you know this, civic engagement matters because civic engagement is a key social determinant of community health. Engaged citizens are great for the economy. They're great for progress. They want to build things for their community, and they want to do things with everybody else in their neighborhoods. And just a few parting words for you today. Let's seek to integrate cultural narratives into messaging. Please start building messaging, not in a vacuum, but with feedback. And also remember that immigrants are here to contribute, not to take. So let's make them all part of this big experiment that's called democracy. Thank you.
All right, Melissa, thank you very much for this important and timely discussion. Like I said, a lot of great information. One thing I always, I gotta just want to throw out here is, because of like the nature of our LD, we are a very popular destination for folks who want to come and help turn out our voters to really, engage, our electorate. And sometimes they don't understand our community. So I think it's important that, as PCs, as residents, as folks here, take some of this information as you encounter those folks. I know we're going to take a very concerted effort as an LD to kind of focus more of that activity that we have in years past, so that we know that these folks are part of the solution. They're not further, alienating an important voting block in our community. So again, thank you, Melissa, for that great information. All right, we got some elected officials on the line here. I'm gonna start with, I see our State Representative Marcelino Quinones. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the floor. What's good at the State House?
Thank you, Chair. Hello, LD11. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy birthday to Arizona, 112 years old. We look good, and no one looks better than LD11. So it's wonderful to be on the call with all of you. A couple of things that were mentioned earlier, but just to sort of from the inside out. We've had 4 vacancies in the last month and a half, and these vacancies are all from our caucus. But the cool thing is that now we've got new members. In LD8, we have Mr. Devin Hodge. In LD5, we have Ms. Sarah Lagori, who we met in LD11 a few months ago because she came to talk to us about affordable housing. She served in the legislature. She took a year off, and now she's back. And then today, the County Board of Supervisors also approved Charles Lucking. And that means that the last vacancy is in LD 22, and we should have a member by Friday, which will then bring up the numbers to what they've been the last 2 years, which is 31 Republicans and then 29 Democrats. So that's what's going on. Last year, you might recall that Governor Hobbs vetoed 143 bills. And I think that has had an impact on how the majority has conducted themselves, because we have had very few bills leave the House thus far, which is good. The only bad part about that is that as members of the minority, we are getting very few of our bills heard in any committee. So the likelihood of them advancing is very slim, but we continue to advocate, we continue to fight, and continue to strike some conversations with the majority. With that in mind, I do have one of my bills that will be heard in committee next Monday. This is called Yes in God's Backyard. And what it does is it allows churches who own plots of land to build affordable housing units. So really excited about that. We know that the housing crisis continues to impact us, particularly here in our district. And so this is a creative solution to sort of build more affordable housing units. Additionally, I did drop with Republican co-sponsors something called Light Tech, which is an expansion of the low-income housing tax credits. The way this works is a developer will build the affordable housing units, and then once they are filled 90% to capacity, then that's when they get their tax credit. So it's kind of, again, a unique way of building affordable housing units, particularly in our district. Continue to advocate for public dollars to go to public schools. And on that point, we are, as you might have heard, in a budget deficit. So right now, the numbers that we were expecting to come in through the budget are not there. This is a result of two things. One, the ESA voucher program is just out of control. So there was the projections that came out were wrong, but that's because more people that were already sending their children to private schools are only now getting an ESA. So that's taken a hit. And then the second one is the flat tax of 2.5%. So when you combine those two things, all of the surplus that we've experienced in the last couple of years just disappeared. So that's going on. Two more things. One, I always include my contact information here. I've been really fortunate to host a number of you down there. I'm going to include my email address. So if you ever want to go to the Capitol, please stop by. If you want to shadow me for a day, or if you know a young person who wants to shadow me for the day and get to experience the Capitol firsthand, please let me know. And I would love that. I had a young person last week from our district shadow me all day, and that was wonderful. And then lastly, for me, even though the governor has vetoed 143 bills last year, the Republicans are intent on introducing anti-immigrant proposals that are unconstitutional. And this week, in the House, they dropped 2747. It was heard in committee, and in committee, I spoke out and I called it unconstitutional. I already told them that it's a waste of time because Governor Hobbs is not going to sign things like that. And so I called him out for wasting all of our time and for not looking at the situation at the border from a humanitarian perspective. It is true that fentanyl is coming through and we need to do something about that. But the individuals that are at the border, our sheriffs, have said we need assistance with surveillance and we need security, and nothing about dehumanizing individuals. And so I called that out in committee. So again, I'll include my email address here. If there's anything that I can do to be of support, please let me know. And then, Mr. Chair, am I allowed to encourage folks to visit the e-signature? Because that might be of support to some of us who now have an earlier primary.
Well, I mean, you kind of already did it, so.
Great. Friend, I'll include my email address. And then, I'll also drop another link. But thank you for all you do. Oh, and then finally, finally, it was really cool to see some of you in person on on Saturday. I love the fact that we have the county with us in LD11. I love the fact that we have the young people from Keep Arizona Blue in our district. I think the more we do that, the better, because as our chair has often said, politics is not a spectator sport. And in LD11, we've got to run up the score. So I'm ready to help us do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Representative. Okay, I see. Let's see. We got some other electeds here. I see our Phoenix Union School Board member Signa Oliver. So what's good in Phoenix Union?
Oh, what's good in Phoenix Union? Thank you, Patrick. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. It's good to see you. Our speakers were phenomenal. Thank you so much for all the information. We appreciate when you come talk to us. Phoenix Union, we are still looking for a superintendent. The application deadline was Monday, the 12th, so it's now closed. I'm one of the liaisons. We have 3 board liaisons that is working with the company, the search firm that is doing the search. And we had a meeting on Monday. We're still hammering out some things on some of the community engagement. We had amazing community engagement before the holidays. Parents, students, the community came out and told us what we needed to do, they wanted us to look for in a candidate. And we have all that information downloaded to us. The next steps after the deadline on Monday, they're going to present candidates to us. We were told there were about 27, I think, people that had officially, as of Monday morning, applied to the position. This is one of the most important things that a governing board does, is find the superintendent. And we are doing a true search where we want to make sure that the next superintendent for Phoenix Union has everything that our community needs them to have, our students and our faculty interactions. So we're very excited about this. We think this is going to be a great, transparent, fair process. There will be at least 1 or 2 more community forums where you can meet the finalists. We don't have those details worked out yet, so I won't announce them yet, but they will be on March 4th, 5th, and 6th. We're going to have our finalists come in, and we're going to narrow the number down to 3. We're actually, the board, let me back up. The board will, on February 29th, we have a special executive session where we will interview 6 candidates, and of those 6, we'll get them down to 3. And the 3 candidates will interview with us on March 4th, 5th, and 6th, but also the community, the faculty and staff and students will have an opportunity to ask them some final questions on those dates. And then at our very next board meeting, we will announce the candidate. So it's a very exciting time in Phoenix Union, and we're looking forward to our new superintendent coming in and moving us forward and making a difference in the community for our kiddos. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you, LD11, for listening. And I appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you, Signa. Thank you for the hard work that you're doing, taking care of our kids at Phoenix Union. Okay, we've got, we're in the home stretch here. So I just want to go over a couple of announcements here, and then we'll kind of turn it over to public comment. The first announcement is the Latin Voter Engagement Committee of the Maricopa County Democratic Party is having, I believe it's their first meeting on February 27th at 6 p.m. We'll drop the link in the chat, of course. If you miss it, remember we record the meetings and it'll be in the newsletter and everything like that. Melissa is you're a co-chair, right? Or you're the chair? All right, well, Melissa's involved in it, so it's quality stuff.
I'm a helper.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's happening. Also, the Black Engagement Committee, along with Maricopa County Democratic Party, is hosting a Black Political Town Hall. This will be an in-person event only. It will not be virtual. It's happening on February 29th at 6:30. So again, we'll drop that link in the chat. It's been in the newsletter. It'll be in the next newsletter. If you're interested in hearing from our electeds, we got, of course, two folks from LD11. Of course, we have Councilwoman Keisha Hodge Washington will be on the panel, as well as Roosevelt Elementary School Board member Ashley Hodge. Dr. Ashley Hodge will be on the panel as well. So they will be talking about a lot of things that impact the Black community, but really the community at large. So if you're interested, sign up. I hear space is limited, and of course it's filling up because it's one of the hottest tickets in town. So those are the two county-wide announcements. So with that being said, I want to switch gears here to public comment. So as you know, public comment, please keep it to 60 seconds or less, because our Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Robert Branscombe, is more than happy to hit that mute button if people go over time. With that being said, just raise your hand. I'll recognize you, unmute, and yep, see Joshua's paying attention. So Joshua, the floor is yours.
Great. It's wonderful hearing what's going on in LD11. As you said, we need y'all to run up the score. So I'm running for the Arizona Corporation Commission along with Yelenia Aguilar and Kiana Sears, who just jumped in the race yesterday. We think we're going to present a really strong ticket to the Republicans, who are in the middle of some pretty deep infighting between the QAnon, the Christian nationalist, and the MAGA factions. And as you know, the Arizona CorpCom are the folks that determine what your electrical bills look like. And so we'd love it if y'all could jump on Equal, sign up for all three Democrats. I'll be dropping the links into the chat if that's okay. Is that okay, Chair?
Yeah, that's fine.
And that will be the links directly from myself and Yelenia's, and I'll email the link for Kiana's to the chair so all three of us can get distributed more widely. With the new deadline, moving the primary from August 6th to July 30th, that means our signatures are now due July 1. This is a sexy down ballot race, but we do still need to get those 6,656 signatures, just like Ruben Gallego does. And so we need the help of LDs like yours to get us out. And then after we go from being candidates to being nominees, we really think that your LD is where we're going to win these statewide races. The focus, LD11, LD29 down here in Tucson, LD21. And then surprisingly, there's a couple of very red LDs where we have Democratic turnout under 30%. And so we believe this is a pocketbook issue. We need affordable, reliable, and secure power and water for our citizens. We don't need to be playing nonsense politics with our utilities. We don't need to bring the Texas power grid to Arizona. And so with that, I appreciate the opportunity to talk. Hopefully we'll be able to get on the agenda for the next meeting and really rally the troops. We believe that LDs like yours can show that Arizona is not just purple, but it's a blue state.
All right, thank you, Josh. And yeah, I've got your email, so let's talk about getting you on the agenda for a future meeting. All right, I see Gregory Freeman for County Assessor. You have the floor.
Well, thank you very much. And you guys already hit on the thing that really pushed me into the race, which is the affordability of housing and the very big lack of it. My name's Greg Freeman. I've been in the real estate industry for over 10 years, between working in escrow, residential, and commercial real estate. I work on homeless issues up in North Phoenix, drug abuse, all that sort of stuff. Really, the only thing I would have to say is sign petitions, but everybody already covered that so much better than me. So I'll go ahead and yield my time back to the chair so everybody can get back to their Valentine's Day. It's wonderful to meet everyone.
All right, thank you. Good seeing you again, Greg. Again, let's talk about getting you on the future agenda so folks can get to know you a little bit better. All right, any other public comments? Public comments going once, going twice. Hey, actually, before I forget, board, stay on the call after everybody else bounces. So it'll be real quick, but just board hang out for a minute after we adjourn the meeting. So just that's one of my announcements. All right, so let me go ahead and close things out. Again, thank you for spending some of your evening with us. As I always say, you could be anywhere doing any number of things, but you're here because you're engaged in this experiment that we call democracy. Lots of great information, but here's, I think, what I'd like for everyone to kind of walk away with tonight. One, what we stand for as Democrats is important. It's things that, as we're seeing across this nation, that people care about. We had, there was some special elections on the East Coast in districts that, either the president, won by a very small margin or did not win, that went to Democrats. We've seen in other states who have tried to restrict a woman's right to determine her bodily autonomy. We've seen, where people thought that those initiatives that would fail, but they passed. And so, the issues that that people care about, not only nationwide but in places like LD11, they resonate. And so as you go through, your day, as you go through your week, as you go through the time between, us coming together as a group, have those conversations. Sometimes conversations with people in politics, they say, people don't discuss politics. I call BS on that, because half the problem is that we don't talk about politics. And when we do talk, we don't use the civility and the humanness of that we should when talking to folks that either we agree or don't agree with. It doesn't have to be a fist fight. It doesn't have to be ugly. We can have good, healthy conversations, but we need to have those conversations. And so with that said, I challenge each and every one of you guys to, have that conversation, make sure people are registered to vote. If not registered to vote, they're making sure that they're still on the ballot. They haven't gotten removed or something weird happened, and that they have a plan to vote in the presidential preference election. Let's get that going. Even if they go, oh, I know Joe Biden's going to be the nominee. Okay, cool. Then just, muscle memory, make sure you're prepared to vote. Additionally, if people are saying, hey, how can I get involved with this? How can I, do my part? Then bring them to a meeting, bring them to an event, let them know about the process of becoming a PC. Because again, this stuff doesn't happen by magic. This stuff doesn't happen because of how many people you tweet or how many friends are on your Facebook account. It happens based on relationships and talking to folks. And as always, democracy is not a spectator sport. With that being said, good to see you all virtually. Look forward to seeing you guys in person this month. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, everyone.